Chapter 26. Bidash, 9th of March, present day. Dead again. Told you there was no chance this body would survive the next few days. I come to, heaving in a gasping lungful of air. The rest of my body doesn't move. I'm locked into position, my head clamped in place, the rest of me similarly restrained. I'm upright, at least, which is a small mercy because it lets me see where I am. That mercy feels exceptionally tiny when I take stock of my situation. I am in a workshop, not the filth-stained dirt pit of the ship wizard, nor a homely, ramshackle mess like Isaac's place. This is as cold and as surgically clean as Phonedick's soul. The pristine, glistening white tiles covering the walls and floor reflect harsh halogen lighting strips. They bring no warmth to the proceedings, only illuminating the horror show into which I've crash-landed. Medical beds hang vertically on each wall, cradling freshly dead corpses strapped in by restraints and head clamps identical to the ones on me. I can see that each is covered in Enochian runes sufficient to trap any talent as effectively as the leather straps restrain the physical vessels. I don't even need to test my talent to know I'm similarly held. There are at least 15 bodies arrayed around the chamber. The only break in this pattern is a large metal door, like those used on industrial freezers. Intricate glyphs and patterns mark the floor, making my head ache. They are technically Kabbalist, but in the same way as calligraphy is technically a scratchy line, this is a level of mastery I have only ever seen worked by Isaac, and only on occasions rare enough to count on one hand. In the middle of the room sits a metal folding chair next to what I suspect is the pièce de résistance of the certifiable interior designer who assembled this chamber. An intricately designed pedestal, I hope, is made of laser-printed plastic. I don't believe it, though. Steam-bent bones have been woven together to form a support column like a bleached 3D representation of a DNA strand. On top of it sits a human skull. I open my sight to look at it, and the intensity of the talent coming off it feels like I've just driven spikes straight through my pupils and into the part of my brain dealing with pain stimuli. So I do the only sensible thing. I pass out. When I come to, it is with the worst headache I've had since I made a drunken bet with Isaac about whether alcohol poisoning was possible with my metabolism. Spoiler, it was. Although using my sight again in this room will most likely give me a brain aneurysm, dying won't get me anywhere anytime soon, given the army of corpses conveniently prepared and magically pre-wrapped around me. Plus, looking might only risk something like blowing a load of blood vessels and having a major stroke, neither of which will leave me fighting fit for the next showdown with Phonedick and any +1s he might bring to the party. So, I hang there, studiously avoiding looking too hard at either the etchings or the more than mildly terrifying skull upon the pedestal. Now that I'm getting the use of my wits back, what little I possessed in the first place, I can feel the power radiating from it just from the corner of my vision. That's more than enough. I'm in no hurry to look directly at it again. I'm not sure I've ever seen anything more powerful. Certainly not since I died for the very first time. And then I remember what happened before I died, and it's like a bucket of ice-cold water thrown in my face, shocking my brain back to full awareness. Aisha! The memory of seeing her burning comes back so strongly that I'd rather look at the skull again than close my eyes. There's too much chance I might watch her cremate unendingly, over and over against the backdrop of my own eyelids. Just the thought, the most minor recollection of watching her cracking, and I can already see her skin parching like drought-hit mud plains breaking open over and over. I retch, feeling the bile rising in my throat, but I clamp it down. Stop any escaping. That motherfucker's gonna turn up soon, I'm sure of it. There's no way I want to give him the satisfaction of seeing how badly he's affecting me. Aisha is burning right now, and if I don't get out of here, she may never stop. Somehow, I've got to outthink him, outsmart him, beat him, get free, go save her. Preferably with phone dick tucked under my arm, wrapped up in a bow as a present for her to take her revenge on, slowly. My only comfort is that the fire tornado doesn't seem anywhere near capable of killing her. Part of me suspects that is only because he prefers to keep her in a state of perpetual torture. If I can break him, the spell will also break, even significantly distracting him or forcing him to spend a large percentage of his own abilities might be enough to put it out of action and consequently put her back in the game to come looking for me. Honestly, though, if she sits this one out once she gets out of that hellhole, I'd fully understand, regardless of what happens to me. I just want her nightmare over as quickly as possible. After a stretch of minutes, the sigils blaze to life, and so does the skull. Roaring blue soul fire reaches out in elongating fingers, magical flames licking around the sockets. They ignite like miniature cerulean suns. The door clinks and swings slowly inward. Just as I hear the click of the door, a terrifying thing happens. One of the two azure stars that burst to life in the skull's previously empty sockets extinguishes before rekindling back to brilliance. The door slowly pushes open, revealing the utterly unwelcome sight of Phone Dick looking unruffled and at ease outside of his aged decrepitude. I marshal my face, trying not to look any less at ease than he does, while also frantically trying to work out what just happened. Did the terrifyingly powerful skull, it definitely requires a capital S, just wink at me? Phone Dick limps across the room, demanding my attention, and the faintest, most irritating bells of familiarity ring in the base of my brain again. He lowers himself into the chair with a relieved sigh. He doesn't seem the slightest bit bothered by the feng shui of the lab, but given he was most likely responsible for the careful arrangement of the morbid wall hangings, I guess he isn't too concerned about dousing himself in negative yang energy. He watches me, his chin resting on the crook of his walking stick with his hands on either side, quietly observing. I was never particularly good with pregnant pauses. I just want to clarify that if Murray over there, I nod at the skull, starts talking, then it is a no from me. I'm out. The pause extends so far in its pregnancy that I'm pretty sure the doctors would have ordered an emergency C-section. He blinks in that crocodilian manner, and I try not to let the image of Aisha's eyelids detaching over and over seep back into my mind's eye, and continues to stare. I do not know what you're talking about, or when you decided buffoonery was a comforting guise, Paul. I stir uneasily at that tone of warm familiarity, but try hard to mask it. Murray? Murray, the demonic talking skull, Monkey Island. I don't know whether to be aghast at your lack of knowledge of point-and-click adventure games, or envious you'll get to play all of them for the first time. If I wasn't going to carve your face off with a rib I snap out of your chest with my fucking teeth when I get down from here, of course. He sighs wearily. Yes, indeed. You will kill me, insert profanity here, mixed with distracting pop culture, threaten and bluff. I'm not some foolish fakin' to be taken in by such bluster, and I am saddened to see what little remains of the holy man I once studied under and placed such great, great faith in. The bottom drops out of my world, kicked away by the click into place of that faint tingle of recognition. It leaves me flailing desperately in space like Wile E. Coyote for a moment before diving into the wake of realizing who I am talking to and exactly how impossible it is. I stutter, my tongue alien, feeling too large for my mouth. It seems to no longer remember how to shape words once so familiar. I wonder if I'm having that stroke I was concerned about giving myself, and nearly start giggling, a desperate hysteria lurking at my mind's edge, ready to seize control if I let it. I have centuries of experience in doing 5 impossible things before breakfast, but nothing ever on this scale. I force myself to quit the stunned fish impersonations and to force out the word, the name, to make it real, even though it can't possibly be. Benedict? I ask, uncomprehendingly. This hideous bastard who killed without qualm, who caged my best friend in her own personal Tartarus, meets my gaze, and for a moment those dead fish eyes warm, and my oldest confidant, a man I believed dead for over 800 years, peers back at me. "Hello, Paul," he replies gently, and for once the smile on his face reaches his entire visage.